Have you ever, sent a brilliant idea or a meticulously crafted resume or even just a pitch for collaboration out into the digital void, and you're just met with absolute deafening silence?
Oh, yeah, it's brutal.
Right. The work is good. The person on the other end would actually benefit from seeing it.
But nothing happens.
Exactly. Nothing happens. It just completely disappears.
And, it's an incredibly isolating experience. The natural human reaction is to just internalize that silence, right? We assume the idea simply wasn't good enough or, that we missed some critical flaw.
We blame ourselves.
We do. But the reality is actually far more mechanical. The idea almost certainly never reached the cognitive awareness of the person on the other end. Like, it literally died in transit.
It died in transit. And that invisible graveyard of lost ideas, that's the exact premise of today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We are exploring this, frankly, profound essay by Elias Kunis called Optionality Has No Rotor.
It's a fascinating piece.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the mission today is to figure out why modern civilization, right? A civilization with massive global markets, ancient academic institutions, trillion-dollar social platforms, why does it utterly lack a reliable system to connect valuable, positive-sum possibilities? Especially, if the people involved aren't already famous or heavily credentialed or deeply embedded in some insider social network.
Yeah, and framing this as just a mere annoyance really underestimates the scale of the problem, this missed connection. It's the default state of unaffiliated ideas.
The default state.
Right. Civilization is just leaking massive amounts of potential everywhere, every single day. So today is fundamentally about diagnosing that leak and looking at the proposed blueprint for this missing nervous system of human coordination.
I love that phrase, nervous system, because right now the gap between, hey, this structurally novel thing exists and the right person actually sees it is essentially unbridgeable for most people. I mean, think about the default communication layers we rely on.
They're completely broken.
They are. Direct messages on social platforms, increasingly locked down to mutuals only, public mentions, completely swallowed by algorithmic noise.
Oh, for sure.
Dedicated forums have basically zero meaningful engagement. And email, like the supposed universal standard, is just ruthlessly filtered.
And the underlying mechanics of that filtering are heavily quantified now. The essay brings up this massive report by Hunter looking at cold outreach data from 2025.
Okay, yeah.
And the data reveals a stark algorithmic bias. Like, if someone sends an email using a custom business domain, they see an average reply rate of about 5.2%.
Okay.
But, and here's the kicker, if that exact same message is sent from a free mail account, like a standard free Gmail or Yahoo address, the reply rate gets cut in half. It drops to 2.5%.
Wow.
Yeah, and that penalty is enforced by server-level defensive mechanisms before a human ever even has the chance to evaluate the content.
Okay, let's unpack this, because it is basically like trying to deliver a highly valuable package to an executive suite in an office building, right? But the postal worker just throws it straight into the dumpster purely because the sender isn't wearing a designer suit.
That's exactly what's happening.
Like, the package could literally contain the cure for a disease or the blueprint for a billion-dollar company, but because the return address lacks a certain corporate veneer, it just goes directly in the trash.
Yeah, and the server algorithms are just trying to defend against scale and spam, but the collateral damage is immense. And that filtering, it extends far beyond automated servers. It is deeply embedded in our human institutions, too.
Right, the human bias.
Exactly. There was this huge 2015 study by Milkman and her colleagues that demonstrated this perfectly. They sent out identical fictional emails from prospective doctoral students to over 6,500 university professors.
6,500, that's a massive sample.
Huge. And the researchers simply changed the names on the emails to signal different genders and races.
Oh, I think I know where this is going.
Yeah. The data showed that faculty ignored requests from women and minorities at measurably higher rates than requests from white males. And at private universities, that disparity in response rates widened to a staggering 16.1 percentage points.
16.1 percentage points. That's wild.
Yeah.
So the systemic filtering happens on multiple levels. You have the servers blocking you for lacking a corporate domain, and then human gatekeepers literally ignoring you if you don't fit the expected demographic or institutional mold.
Yeah, and we see the exact same pattern in data access. There's another study by Ibrahim that showed when researchers request access to restricted data sets, their current institutional affiliation is, like, the overwhelming predictor of whether they get approved.
Just having the right school on your resume.
Right. The system defaults to affiliation as a proxy for safety and competence. And, on a statistical level, that makes a certain kind of sense. Top universities generally vet their people, but relying on that proxy systematically starves the periphery. It inherently excludes structurally novel ideas, cross-domain insights, or early-stage innovations that just haven't yet been recognized by an established department.
Right, like if your brilliant idea straddles biology, economics, and computer science, no single traditional institution knows what to do with you, so you just get ignored by all three.
Exactly.
But okay, if the default state of these networks is failure, how does anything novel actually get communicated? Because we clearly have some systems in place to route information, right?
We do, but we lean on 4 fragmented workarounds, which the essay identifies as our current routers. And the first, as we kind of just discussed, is the institution.
Yeah.
Institutions route information by wrapping it in authority. So a university crest or a massive corporate logo dramatically lowers the verification cost for the person receiving the message.
Because they trust the logo.
Right. But the inherent blind spot is that institutions are structurally conservative, they route what they recognize, and they suppress structural critiques of the institution itself.
Makes sense. So if institutions fail the novelty test, what's the next router? The social graph.
Yep, the classic warm introduction.
Right, like you know someone who can finally get your idea on the right desk.
Exactly. Warm introductions function by transferring trust from a known entity to an unknown one. But the fatal flaw here is a network dynamics concept known as preferential attachment.
Preferential attachment.
Yeah, it was famously modeled by Barabasi back in the late 90s. Basically, in any network, new connections tend to attach to nodes that already have plenty of connections.
The rich get richer.
Exactly. Attention aggregates around already prominent figures. So if a truly valuable paradigm-shifting signal originates from someone outside that dense central cluster, the social graph literally cannot route it. The idea remains trapped in the periphery.
Which leaves us at the mercy of platforms, the algorithms powering our feeds and timelines. Because, if institutions are too conservative and social graphs are too cliquey, surely a machine learning algorithm can just match a great idea to the person who wants to see it based on, semantic similarity, right?
Yeah, algorithms absolutely route by similarity, but their underlying optimization function is entirely misaligned with value creation.
How so?
Platforms are built to maximize psychological capture. They optimize for dwell time and scroll depth. The algorithm's primary goal is to keep you inside the ecosystem, not to seamlessly connect a visionary with their ideal collaborator so they can, log off and go build something together.
Oh, wow. Yeah, if you log off, they lose money.
Exactly. Furthermore, standard engagement metrics are just deteriorating. With the rollout of aggressive privacy protections like Apple Mail, preloading tracking pixels, open rates have become completely inflated and practically useless. Actual human reply rates are becoming the only verifiable metric of engagement.
Wait, I'm stuck on something here.
Okay, what is it?
We've talked about institutions, social networks, and algorithms.
Yeah.
But what about just paying for access? The money router.
Ah, yes.
Because if I really want a venture capitalist to read my pitch, and I pay them $20 to guarantee they open it, doesn't that logically prove I'm serious and filter out all the low-effort bots? Why did all those crypto-based pay-to-message startups from a few years ago fail to become the standard way we communicate?
What's fascinating here is the psychological friction of pricing human attention. The essay points to economic research regarding an uncanny valley in the pricing of attention, specifically in the $5 to $50 range.
Uncanny valley.
Yeah, think about the mechanics of that transaction. A $20 fee to send a message is an insurmountable barrier for a struggling student or a researcher in a developing nation who might actually hold a world-changing idea.
Right, $20 is a lot of money for them.
But on the receiving end, $20 is essentially insulting to someone whose time is highly leveraged. A prominent CEO or top-tier engineer is not going to spend 20 minutes critically evaluating a cold pitch just to earn $20.
They aren't running a vending machine for their time. The math just doesn't work for them.
Exactly. It creates massive adverse selection. The only people willing to aggressively pay those fees are disproportionately salespeople, aggressive marketers, or outright scammers who are calculating a financial return on their outreach.
Ah, I see.
When a system fills entirely with transactional pitches, it violates deeply held social norms. It destroys trust rather than building it.
So if these workarounds, institutions, social graphs, platforms, and money are all fundamentally incapable of routing novel, unaffiliated ideas, what is the actual cost to humanity? I mean, it feels like this creates a massive coordination failure.
It creates a textbook scenario of Moloch. Yes. In game theory and systems thinking, Moloch represents the dark force of coordination failure situations, where every individual is acting logically within their localized incentives, but the collective outcome is disastrous. And the essay argues something crucial about Moloch. It isn't simply the absence of knowledge or some evil, unstoppable force. Moloch is the absence of a correction path.
Meaning the solution actually exists, but the system literally cannot integrate it.
Precisely. Let's look at the historical cost of that broken routing. W. Edwards Deming was a brilliant statistician who traveled to Japan in 1950.
Okay.
He taught their industrial leaders revolutionary statistical quality control methods, which catalyzed Japan's post-war economic miracle. It was incredibly effective. But massive U.S. manufacturers ignored his methods completely.
Really? For how long?
It wasn't until 1981, 30 years later, that companies like Ford finally adopted these practices, and they were forced to adapt by the sheer competitive pressure of superior Japanese vehicles flooding the market.
30 years.
30 years. For 3 decades, the U.S. manufacturing sector suffered from a correction signal that existed but lacked a reliable router to penetrate the corporate hierarchy.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like a fire alarm going off in a completely soundproof room.
Yes.
Like the correction signal exists, the alarm is flashing violently, but there is literally no wire connecting that alarm to the building's sprinkler system.
The wire is the router, and without it, the building burns while the alarm flashes, and we see the exact same tragedy in medicine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A.L. Cochrane published vital research in 1972 demonstrating that the medical field desperately needed rigorous, systematic reviews of health services. The diagnosis was crystal clear, but it took over 20 years until 1993 for the Cochrane collaboration to actually be founded and institutionalize the routing of those medical reviews.
That is just tragic.
It is. Meta-level diagnosis without a routing mechanism is just a voice shouting in the desert. Conversely, routing without authority is just a flooded, unmanageable inbox. A functioning system requires diagnosis, routing, and authority to all connect.
Yet, history is full of these romanticized stories of isolated geniuses who did somehow get their ideas recognized. Like Michael Faraday. He was a bookbinder's apprentice in 1813 without any formal scientific credentials, but he meticulously bound his chemistry notes and handed them directly to Humphrey Davy, who hired him.
Right.
Or Srinivasa Ramanujan, the self-taught mathematician who mailed his brilliant theorems from Madras, India, all the way to G.H. Hardy at Cambridge in 1913.
We celebrate those stories precisely because they are anomalies,
Right.
but analyze what those breakthroughs actually required. Geographic proximity for Faraday, immense personal risk, and sheer undeniable luck that Hardy actually read the letter instead of tossing it. A globally connected civilization cannot rely on luck to interface its greatest minds.
No, definitely not.
For every Ramanujan, there are thousands of lost geniuses whose ideas simply died in transit because they lacked the resources to bypass the broken routers.
So we can't rely on luck, and our current infrastructure is clearly broken. What does Elias Kunis actually propose we do to fix this?
Yeah.
Like, how do we build a wire between the fire alarm and the sprinkler system?
The core proposal is to stop routing based on the sender's identity, which, as we know, relies on flawed proxies like university degrees or social wealth, and start routing based on the structure of the claim itself.
The structure of the claim.
Right. We need a new primitive called an accountable routing claim.
Okay, what does that actually look like?
Rather than outlining this as abstract theory, let's look at how its 5 components work together in practice.
Let's do it.
Imagine a brilliant, completely unknown researcher sitting in a basement with a structural breakthrough in battery chemistry. They need to reach the top venture capitalist in that space.
Right now, they would send a rambling cold email, and it would immediately hit the spam folder or get ignored by an assistant.
Exactly. Under this new protocol, the researcher doesn't send an email. They create what is called an optionality packet.
Optionality packet, okay.
This is a strictly bounded ask. It clearly defines the attention required. It doesn't say, please read my 50-page thesis. It says, this is a strictly bounded 3-minute triage request regarding a specific solid-state battery metric, seeking classification as either irrelevant or worth forwarding.
Oh, I see. So the burden of attention is minimized and clearly defined up front. But, the venture capitalist still receives thousands of messages a day. How do they filter this one?
The venture capitalist has set up an intent endpoint.
Intent endpoint. That's the second piece.
Yep. This is a publicly declared policy of exactly what signals they are willing to receive. Instead of an open inbox, they declare, I will only review bounded optionality packets regarding solid-state battery metrics. All unbounded requests are ignored.
Okay, so the researcher has the right packet, and the VC has declared they want that exact kind of packet.
Yeah.
But how does it actually cross the chasm? Because the VC still doesn't know who this random researcher is.
This is where the middleman comes in, providing a router attestation.
The third piece.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is someone who stakes their own reputation on the packet. Crucially, the router is not guaranteeing that the battery chemistry works flawlessly. They're simply making a staked claim that says, I have reviewed this and I attest that it is worth your requested 3 minutes of attention to evaluate.
But wait, why should the VC trust this specific middleman?
Because the middleman possesses an actor passport.
Number 4.
Right. This isn't a university degree. It's a portable, cryptographic track record of their credibility specific to that domain. It proves they have a history of successfully curating chemistry insights. Their credibility moves with them, independent of any corporate affiliation.
Oh, that's smart. And how do they build that credibility in the first place? Like, how does the system learn who's a good router?
Through the final component, the outcome
The
received.
feedback loop.
Yes. When the venture capitalist spends those 3 minutes reading the packet, they generate a simple feedback loop. They mark it as either relevant or irrelevant. If it's a brilliant insight, the router's passport gains reputation. If the router sent garbage, their passport loses reputation, and eventually, the system just ignores them. The outcome receipt aligns all the incentives, rewarding good curation and punishing time wasting.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the listener? I can hear people right now thinking, this sounds logically sound, but I really don't want to learn a whole new complicated tech stack, manage cryptographic passports, and navigate new software just to pitch a project.
I get that, but the transition doesn't start with new software. The essay makes a vital point that the initial implementation is actually a social compression format.
A social compression format, like,
Think about the early days of the internet. The underlying protocol of the web, HTTP, existed as an agreed-upon standard for formatting requests, long before consumer web browsers made it visually seamless for everyone.
oh, okay, so it's about changing our vocabulary first, establishing the social expectation before the tech catches up.
Exactly. You start by deploying the language in your daily interactions. When someone sends you a massive, rambling request, you reply, your ask is unbounded. Please reformat this into a specific optionality packet. Or you publicly list your intent endpoint on your professional profile, stating exactly what you will and won't pay attention to.
Right.
Once the social expectation of bounded asks and accountable routing takes hold, the software tools will naturally be built to automate the friction away.
But we need to start building this nervous system quickly, right? Because the volume of noise is about to explode. We have to bootstrap this in high-value niches first, using layered triage, where packets move through trusted domain maintainers before reaching the final recipient.
It all operates on a fundamental decision rule for routing. A message should only be passed along if the expected mutual value of the interaction is strictly greater than the combined costs of attention, privacy, abuse risk, and the effort of routing itself. If that equation isn't positive, the packet dies.
And the urgency here is profound. I mean, 8 billion humans have already pushed email to its absolute breaking point. And we are on the precipice of a world filled with 100 billion AI agents capable of generating infinitely cheap, completely plausible-sounding text.
It's coming.
Wait, let me push back on this assumption, though. If AI agents are going to flood the zone with cheap text, won't they just exploit this new protocol immediately? What stops an AI from generating a billion perfectly formatted optionality packets and overwhelming the intent endpoints anyway?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the rise of generative AI actually makes this specific protocol mandatory for civilization to function.
Really? How so?
Remember the mechanics we just walked through? The protocol is entirely dependent on staked router reputations and outcome receipts. If an AI agent floods the network with perfectly formatted garbage, the human recipients will quickly evaluate the packets and issue irrelevant outcome receipts.
Which instantly burns the AI's actor passport.
Precisely. The AI quickly drains all of its routing credibility. Once the passport is burned, the network algorithmically ignores it. AI agents cannot bypass the accountability built into the cryptographic layer.
Right. Wow.
In reality, AI won't break the system. AI will act as the infrastructure that implements it for us. You will have an AI agent draft your bounded asks, and you will have an AI agent enforcing your intent endpoint, automatically rejecting anything that lacks a staked accountable router. When the cost of generating text drops to zero, verifiable trust routing becomes literally the only way humans can communicate.
That makes total sense. Civilization is essentially just the slow accumulation of routed positive-sum interactions. Every time the right idea meets the exact right capability, humanity takes a step forward.
Absolutely.
Better routing means more brilliant founders actually finding their ideal co-founders without relying on the Ivy League. It means critical policy corrections reaching the right legislators before the crisis hits. It means life-saving insights actually escaping the void.
It is ultimately about reducing the friction of progress. When high-quality work exists, its realization shouldn't be dependent on geographical luck, class access, or, a catastrophic failure to force its adoption. We have the capability to build a nervous system worthy of the ideas it carries.
As we wrap up today's deep dive, I want you to take a moment and reflect on your own intent endpoints. Look at your inbox, your social profiles, your daily interactions. Are you clearly communicating what signals you actually want to receive? Or are you leaving your attention completely unprotected, like an open commons that anyone can just trample over?
Clarifying those boundaries is the necessary first step to opting into a better routing system.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder today. Think about the most massive existential crises we are facing right now as a species. What if the most vital, elegant, world-saving solution to one of these problems has actually already been written?
It's chilling to think about.
What if it's currently sitting unread in a spam folder or ignored at the bottom of an obscure forum thread, simply because the author lacked the institutional affiliation or the attention cost to route it to the person who could fund it? The cure we are desperately looking for might already be out there, just waiting in the dark for a router to find it.